This conference will now be recorded.
Hey Tracy, was there a package back there? Huh? Oh. It's all right. See, so I have it all on a thumb drive, which I left at work. Huh? Out there this afternoon, nothing. The bottom of my rain gauge is dry. It was raining in Madison today. Where you got the hymns down there, or 9/10 on Tuesday? In Atlanta? Yeah, I did.
Don't on Tuesday night, and then did it rain in Syria?
Didn't? I got, actually, I had 8 10s.
Okay, I think we have everybody here. It's a little after 6:30. Let's go ahead and get started, please. Should I blow a whistle or something?
No respect.
Let's go ahead and get started, please. Thank you. We do have a quorum. All members are present. A reminder, as Tracy's asked me to do, just remind everybody, when you do speak, make sure your microphones are on for the recording. We need to adopt the agenda. Take a look at that. Fairly short tonight. I think, don't we want to have a status update on the, Tracy, on the comp plan work? That's not on here on the, oh, there it is. Okay, I see it. Unfinished business. Okay, thank you. Any other comment or discussion on the agenda?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, first order of business is the adoption of the minutes. And we'll take a quick look at those from the June 5th meeting. I'm sorry, this is from the June 20th meeting.
One correction, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Let's see. The bottom of the second page would go with the land or who is an employee. If it says cooperation, that should be a corporation.
Okay. Any other corrections or comments?
Move.
Motion, we
Motion to approve as corrected.
Yes, sir.
And
Second.
seconded. All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, the first case under new business is case number SUP-07-18-24, Trail Bites by Cape Crumbs, an SUP application. This is the first time we've looked at this, so it's an introduction to it. Renee Balfour, the owner, and Mary Woodward, the leasee, have filed a special use permit application to operate a general store located at 37 Poorhouse Road, Craigsville, Virginia, and further identified by tax map number 21-47C. The property is zoned as agricultural, A1, and it contains 0.0293 acres. The property is improved by an existing 312 square foot brick building. The applicant is proposing to operate a general store in the existing building. Tracy, anything to add there?
Let's see, just a couple of things. I did receive written comments from the building official today. So just quickly to brief, this application did go before the development committee, earlier this month. The development committee reviewed it and felt that it was best, to proceed with the SUP as a general store, rather than a refreshment stand or any type of, business like that. The applicant plans to offer pre-packaged foods and snacks, along with, merchandise, cups and T-shirts, and she can get into those kinds of details with you. But as you'll see in the photos, it is a very small building. Perfect for this type of use, though. The building official did provide comments today, though. And he has also met with the applicant. They will not be required to have a restroom in the facility here. She will have to go through VDAX, which she has started the process. So she can explain that. But, as most of you know, she has a business here in town already. So this is an expansion. Let's see, VDOT. I've sent the application to them. I don't anticipate any issues with them. I've not heard back from them yet. As soon as I do, of course, we'll relay that information to you. And I think that should be it. Obviously, Health Department would be in conjunction with VDAX and, yeah. The special use permit conditions, they're in draft form. They can be changed. Again, it should be pretty minimal impact. It should be an improvement to the area. So unless you have specific questions for me, I'll let you.
Okay, anyone have any questions for Tracy?
I had one question.
Okay.
Tracy, on item 9 on the application, private well is checked, but neither private septic nor none was checked. Is that should it be none? Or is she doing a different type of wastewater facility?
So what she has talked with the health department about doing, there is water on site. Whether the records are there for that, we won't go there. It's not necessarily required. The health department has agreed, as long as VDAX is on board, she will be allowed to use a portable sink, and then she will dispose of the waste at her restaurant in town. So there's a plan for that. She can speak to the well, but from my understanding, there's no intention to use the water there. So, and there is not a septic. There's no room for a septic, and yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Pete, did you have a question?
I got a couple questions. Number one is, if there's no bathroom there, will it be an outside porta potty and a hand wash station?
The building department is not going to require a restroom unless VDAX requires her to have a porta-john. That would be the only reason that she would have to. And I'm not,
If you drive from Madison up there and you drink a sweet tea on the way up there and you're gonna work for 4 hours and you need to go to a restroom, what are you gonna do? That's one of my questions. The other question is, what about the amount of parking? Is it sufficient? And the building inspector is okay with the amount of parking?
it is, it's a
And
three,
VDOT has give their blessing?
I've not heard from VDOT, pending comments from them. Obviously, they won't be allowed to block or park in the right-of-ways. They won't be allowed to block the right-of-way in between Possum Store and this building. You'll see on the plat, there's a strip of land that goes to the property and behind there. They're aware of that. They know they can't block that. So waiting for VDOT's official comments. And then, what was the other question? I lost my train of thought. I got stuck on VDOT and lost it.
Parking is
Parking. So the ordinance requires 150 square feet per parking spot, and it's a 312 square foot building. So technically, they would only need 2. She actually has 3 proposed. If you'll look on the plan, let's see here. Hang on one second. So in front of the fence line here, there's 3 proposed, and there's also parking available at Possum Store.
Will there be a handicap accessible parking spot, and will the building be handicap accessible?
No, it is not required to be per the building official.
Okay, any other questions?
I got just a general question about the way the application's being presented. So we used to get kind of like a little narrative or something to tell us, that you would normally read to us and tell us about what's going on here. Am I missing that? Are we not doing that any longer? Or?
No, sir.
We're not doing that any longer?
I think we may get some of that from the applicant.
So when we get our packet, we're not going to get
Like a summary.
an official narrative of what's going on with the application?
I think with,
Yep, this mic is on. Okay, there we go. I think what you're referring to, Mr. Snyder, I think normally we do have, is this not in here? Is that what he's referring to?
It's in the packet.
Yeah, so there is a,
Are you talking about the overview thing? Is that what? 'Cause,
Yeah, it
I mean,
gives
I guess I'm used to
background.
what we normally have, the zoning administrator reading to us about the application or something and telling us a little bit about it.
okay, Tracy does have in your packet, there is a background form for this application. It's dated July 12th, 2024. We certainly can read that to you if you like. Gives you a little more overview to your point. I'm not sure if that's the style of summary that you're normally used to seeing, but there is a summary in there.
Where is this, please?
It's gonna look like in memo form. There will be a county seal logo. I think you went past it.
I'm missing that somehow.
If you go from the start,
Mr. Smith
maybe
has
the 6th
it.
or 7th page, or you just got.
Yes, that page. Should be in this packet here.
It's page 7.
Here. That's
Okay.
the staff.
Okay,
summary.
thank you.
My apologies. We would be happy to give an overview of that if the planning commission chairman would like. Is that your preference, Mr. Chairman? I think this is, in my apology, we may not have referred to it, but Tracy read basically what that is. It's the location, the square footage of the building, how we arrived at the general store classification, and then any pending partner agencies such as VDOT and Health Department that's pending. But there is a summary report in your packet.
And I do think, Mike, that as we get some information from the applicant, a lot of that will be brought out, yeah. So unless there's further questions for Tracy. Yes.
Just to go back to something, Tracy, I find it hard to understand, but I expect there's something in the code that says this, how the building inspector, when you're open to the public, how you can discriminate against handicap accessibility.
Well, I don't want to speak for him. Maybe Hannon should take this question, but I mean, certain buildings, pre-code, are exempt pre-code, or?
I think that's the answer. I don't know enough to give you a great answer right now, but there are buildings that are older and they get sort of retro allowed to be outside ADA. I don't know what the requirements are of like bringing them up to code are when it's, you know, a new use for a very old building. But I'm sure Mr. Wilkes would be the subject matter expert on that one.
I would just state that Mr. Elliott and all planning commissioners will note that as a question. And I think the easiest thing, we'll bring it back as a reminder, follow-up at the next meeting, but if we get an answer before that meeting, we can simply shoot an email to the whole planning commission and copy the board members as well. And I'm noting that as not only accessibility as interior, but also exterior with the parking. Okay.
Any other questions for Tracy? All right, and in that case, would the applicant like to address the planning commission? Yeah, you've got the mic there, okay. Please identify yourself and we'll go from there.
Hi, I'm Mary Woodward. I'm the owner of Cake Crumbs here on Main Street in Madison. I recognize a lot of your faces for coming in my shop, so you kind of already know what's going on. But I wanted to, Renee approached me and bought this little property and just doesn't want the building to go to waste. So we kind of came up with a plan of me renting it from her and doing a small little, you know, pop-up only on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, for, you know, out-of-towners that are coming in to hike all the lovely trails we have in that area and, you know, use our river and stay up at graves and all that stuff. And to provide them with, you know, to-go options for lunch. So basically they would come in, we have little pre-boxed lunches that would have a sandwich, a pasta salad, a fruit of some sort, and a brownie, which I would make. And they're all pre-boxed and labeled. And then we would also provide sodas and water and tea and iced coffee and that sort of thing, all self-serve. And then, of course, prepackaged pastries, can't go without those. That's what I'm known for. So prepackaged like cinnamon rolls, scones, donuts, that sort of thing. And just to, you know, offer something for the sweet tooth out there. It's a very small building, so it's very limited in what I can do there, and I'm totally okay with that. But I love the area, and I think that this is a great addition to that area and to Possum Store, and I'm so excited about having a partnership with Renee and doing this. So I hope that we gain your approval on this.
Okay, any questions for the applicant? Okay, kind of along the lines of one of the things that Pete was asking about, this is perhaps more for the owner. Apparently there is a well. Is there water in the house? I mean, do you have actually a faucet in the house, or is that well not used at all?
So there is a well, and there is water. There's a pressure tank, but there's no sink. It's just the previous owner had just a little portable sink there that they were filling up with water, with, you know, one of those big water jugs.
Okay, so
There's no actual like piping or anything like that. So we don't know if there's a drain out. So that's why we were talking about doing something portable and having our, you know, waste, our gray water being sent to K Crumbs to be disposed of there at my Main Street location.
So even if there is an existing well, there's no way it can be used?
Not really, no. There's no way to drain it out, so yeah.
Another question relating to the, I guess perhaps the number of parking spaces and the ADA compliance and so forth. You're not proposing to serve food in the building?
No,
So-
no, sir. This is all to-go prepackaged food, so they cannot eat inside the building at all.
And at the development committee meeting, I think I remember you saying that you would also have, in addition to food items, you had other,
Yes, we will have merchandise like T-shirts, hats, tumblers, coffee mugs. We're also going to do some like bug sprays and maybe some sunscreens and things like that for the hikers that come in and, you know, need something like that on the fly. I don't want to impose on what Renee does, so I want to kind of keep my stuff simple because she has some really cool
basically
stuff.
you're looking at supplying some food items and items for
Yes,
hikers?
yes,
Just tourists coming through?
yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for the applicant? This is exactly for the applicant, but is the special use permit going to be under Renee Balfour or Kate Prince?
It's under me. I paid the fee.
So, under the number one, the special permit is transferable to the land. So, it's going to have to be by the owner. That's what, number one did.
We can change it how you wish, but if you look at the SUP at the top, again, the special use permit requires the owner's signature, and it also requires the leasee's signature. My opinion is it should be both of them, and that's how I did it on the special use permit. I put the owner and the leasee. You can tell me how to change it however you wish. But I did obtain both signatures, because we needed both signatures, as technically both are the applicants. She had to give her permission to file the SUP as the owner of the land, so. You don't usually see, not often do you see a leasee and a owner being different. It can be, but,
I'm not trying to make it difficult, I'm just
No,
trying to.
you're
figure
fine.
out who the
and maybe
stuff's gonna be
Hannon
that
might
we
have some
can
advice on that. Okay.
Yeah, so do we need to fix that or let it go as it is? You do have both signatures. Perhaps, I'm not sure, if checking the boxes, is there any reason we just can't check both owner and leasee? I mean, are they exclusive of each other, or can they be both checked? Because you have both on the application, you have both signatures on the application.
Steve, I'm not saying what's right or what's wrong, but I've been through a couple of special use permits, and it had to be the owner to put my name on there.
Okay, I think that's gonna require.
I think the train of thought, I agree with you, Steve, but I think that the train of thought is actually pretty good. If the applicant is the leasee, then it should go with the applicant. If it was the owner that's taking it, maybe cover both sides, then it could go with the land. So I like the train of thought. I mean, it's right on the money.
And if we're gonna go that way, we go that way from this point forward, I'm okay with that.
Just for clarity, are we hearing the preference of the, thank you, Mr. Jackson, are we hearing the preference of the planning commission? What I've just heard the Chairman Jackson state is, if you had the applicant applying, in this case, the leasee, you would prefer the special use permit condition number one to run with the applicant. If it's the owner that's making the filing, then you wish for it to be run with the land. Is that the consensus, Mr. Carpenter?
Well, my personal opinion, yes, I think that makes more sense. Does anybody disagree with that?
Okay, we will.
Especially in a case like this, I mean, this is repurposing an old, very small building,
Yes, yes.
Mr. Chairman, point of privilege. Does, Mary or Renee, you have any input or any feeling one way or the other? What I'm hearing is the applicant in this case will be the leasing who's paid the special use permit. I understand that. Any problems if we change that, in your opinion, the special use permit will be, shall run with the applicant?
I'm fine either way.
What
Whatever
that
you guys
will
say.
mean, and humor me on this, what that would mean, and this isn't gonna happen, you're gonna be out there forever, I understand that. But if you were to say, not gonna have my shop anymore, and you wanted to have it, Renee as the owner, as something else, it doesn't mean that you couldn't even run the sandwich shop, because you're not the applicant in this case, it would be Mary, or the general store, excuse me. So I just wanna make sure I'm clear in what we're saying and what that means. If this goes with the applicant, it strictly would go with the leasing, in this case, Mary, if it's
I'm
approved.
fine.
Okay.
I'm-
Then,
you
Mr.
know-
Chairman, we will make that change with the applicant, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So Mayor, one other question for the applicant, please. Do you plan to put a floor john outside in the hand wash station?
No, sir.
I'll tell you why I have a concern.
Sure.
You know, I've hiked all day, I come in and get a bottle of water, I drink it, and I don't want your neighbors calling Tracy and say, I see him urinating outside.
Well, I hope you wouldn't do that, but I wish it were that easy.
But I'm speaking for the public.
Yeah. So Renee has graciously offered her bathroom in Possum Store. She does have a bathroom there, and it's literally just right through the fence, easily accessible from her back door. So if it is, if a hiker or someone that is traveling more than a few minutes, to the location and they do need to use the restroom, she is perfectly fine with allowing us to do that. So we do have a bathroom. It's just not in the building. I don't plan on getting a porta john. I'm not required to through VDAX. So if I can save that expense, I would like to. And if it's okay with you guys for us to just access Possum Store bathroom, if that's acceptable, I would rather go that route.
Would you be willing to maybe put a sign up that says bathroom
Sure.
next door, something
Sure.
like that? maybe?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just something to let them know.
For
the
emergency
bush isn't
use,
available. That,
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, it would give Renee business too, because they would come in and use her bathroom and then shop in her store.
Any other? One quick question. When you first started introducing it today, you said you planned basically on a weekend operation.
Yes, for now.
For now.
Yes, it's just to try a trial for me. Like, we're gonna try this for a year. That's the plan, and just do it as the trial run to see if it's something that will take off and work. Obviously, I don't want to get into something that's not going to be successful. So I'm just in my head. I'm keeping this as a trial run, and hopefully it will continue and we'll do great.
It's something to think about, even if this is a trial run, if she'd have to come back. I mean, if you do some 4 hours a day, and it's your business, if you ask for during the week, I don't see a big issue. Where if you found out, this works on Wednesdays and Mondays, you wouldn't have to come back in.
Okay.
Do the whole thing again.
That's good to
I
know.
can't tell you to do that.
Right. Yeah. And if that does, if we are successful on the weekends, I mean, it's absolutely possible that we would open it up during the week.
May I? I'm feeling rude here. I apologize. There is not, correct me, Tracy, if I'm wrong, there is nothing in your special use permit conditions that addresses or restricts your hours of operation. So if the planning commission, ultimately the board, are fine with these conditions, and these were the conditions that were be approved, we're running with hypotheticals here, there's nothing that would say you can only operate
Okay.
weekends only.
Okay.
If that's something that the planning commission would like to advise us on, we're happy to hear that. I do hear Mr. Elliott's concern. I just wanted to offer that up to the whole group, that there's nothing in here restricting hours of operation. It does make sense to align with your bathrooms and whatever, you know, Renee has available, but right now, there's nothing in here about hours of operation.
And actually, I wasn't questioning how often you were gonna be using it, it's just, originally I hadn't realized this was just a weekend.
Oh, gotcha.
There's nothing in here like, Mr. Wheatley says that you can't just call it every day of the week. And of course, the other thing, well, just my personal opinion on this is the kind of small business catering to tourism that I think we are looking for. And certainly with Craigsville as kind of one of the potential tourism centers in the county, this is,
Thank you.
I like this.
Yes, sir. I actually have done a little bit of research, and there are several Airbnbs in that area, and they are booked every single weekend. So I would really like to tap into that market and be successful with that and just meet new people. That's, you know, I'm always looking to meet new people and learn their lifestyles and what they're looking for when they're traveling.
And also, as a general store, since you're selling various items other than just the food, and the food is not for consumption on site, so.
Right.
As far as we can understand, there are no requirements for a restroom or even
Right.
water in the building. It's simply,
Correct.
Historically in Madison County, most general stores did not have restrooms and water in them. They were lucky to have electricity in them, so.
Yeah.
Any questions, other questions, any other comments or discussion? Okay, good for a start. At this point, is there any public comment on this application? Any public comment? I guess not. Thank you. Oh, check online, yes. We might have public online. No good, okay. All right, very good. The second item on new business is the proposed amendment to Appendix 1 of the zoning ordinances, Article 20-98, definition of home occupations, some revisions perhaps. Tracy, you want to point some of those out for us?
Sure. So Hannon has helped prepare this. And, you know, this has been a recent conversation at the planning commission level and at the board level with recent applications and just small businesses here in Madison in general. So the question has come up often of what does regular employed on site mean? And the goal of this amendment is to clarify that for applicants and also from an enforcement standpoint. So the board would like to see an expeditious review in taking this to public hearing, so please take that into consideration. And I don't have anything else unless you have questions. Just a note that Mr. Smith sent out an email today, so I'm sure he'll want to speak to that, and then I provided you hard copies of that as well, so.
Any questions for Tracy on this before we ask Jim to tell us what he thinks? Jim has spent quite a bit of time researching the places where home occupation shows up in our ordinances already. And I think, not trying to speak for him, but I think he's discovered there are some discrepancies here and there. Would that be one way to put it? And before we start on that, in addition to that, just again, my personal take on this, I think what we're seeing here is the potential need for examining other kinds of home-based businesses that are not truly a home occupation. And right now, there's no clear distinction. And that's, I suspect that's gonna cause problems in the future. So in addition to the current suggested changes, just to refine our definition, I think along the lines of what Jim was talking about too, we need to reconcile the way it's used everywhere in the ordinances, and perhaps even later look at some additional distinctions between true home occupation and perhaps home-based business, which is not essentially just a home occupation. Unless somebody else has a comment, let's let Jim, you say you've got a pointer to show us and everything, or are you just gonna wing it?
Why can't I, well, we can.
Okay.
I sent out a memo some time ago that, rather lengthy, and in looking at our definition, it appeared to me in mincing the words, and words do have meaning, so I kind of like to rely on the meaning of words, that there were 3 different conditions under which home occupations, an undefined term, could be granted a special use permit, or they were described as being allowed by right. And I'd colored the ordinance that we had before Hannon's proposed changes into the green, the blue, and the yellow, which are the 3 different conditions. And I think I'm probably going to have to defer to Mr. Wright. In looking at some of these, it would appear that a by right definition, or a by right use, would be limited to persons who reside on the premises. Premises not defined, but I assume we could use the tax parcel. And the conditions are there is no sign of an occupation activity, and the building where the work occurs appears to be a dwelling. But the signage, you can have signage, but only if it's approved. In the second one, and right after that definition is given, the existing ordinance says that, however, and the however normally would suggest that this is one condition, but now we've got other conditions coming on. Would you agree with that kind of understanding, Hannah? Thank you. And in the however, we've got a right that's allowed only through special use permit, and that's less than 3 employees. Why didn't it say 1 or 2? I have no earthly idea, but less than 3 employees. There are no conditions as to the space where work is going to be performed, but the work must be performed by people who are regularly employed on site. And regularly employed was what was causing us some heartburn, and I think Mr. Wright's done, in my view, he's done a really great job on dealing with that issue, dealing with the regularly employed, but not defining what an employee is. And then the third condition, that no employees other than those who reside on the premises are allowed to work in the home occupation. No customer traffic can be allowed, and the work must be done solely within the house. Well, that issue has been corrected. The solely within the house to solely on the premises, I think, is what it's worded now, which is much more, a much broader definition, and I think radically improves this thing. The no customer traffic, I think we need to know that that means no inbound traffic of a customer. It says absolutely nothing about vendors coming in making deliveries for the home occupation. And I don't know if that's an oversight or something that was intent. You have to assume it was intentional. It's been here a pretty good while. We've been playing with it. During the last meeting, Jonathan mentioned that had spoken with the prior zoning administrator who had described what her view was and what the county had determined regularly employed to mean. I'd really like to see some of the rulings that this planning commission has dealt with, recommendations that have been made and the rulings made by the board, where regularly employed, as she said, that we've dealt with in the past. I'd really like to see them and read them for myself. But I think on a going forward basis, what Mr. Wright has proposed really takes us out of the woods on this, except for the term employee. That is not a generic term. It's a term that has specific meanings depending upon the area of law in which you play. My background is about 50 years in tax law, and we had very specific definitions because for the IRS purposes, they want everybody to be employees so they can do withholdings and SUP, federal unemployment tax, Social Security, which is not a tax, and the various other add-ons that the IRS likes to ensure that are being collected. In Virginia, the term employee is not defined anywhere in our ordinance. In the Code of Virginia, though, there is a very expansive definition in the worker compensation laws. And I really think, I don't think that we should add 4 pages of definition of what an employee is. If you do that and you miss something, then shame on you. If you're dealing with a lot of if you're dealing with a lot of specifics in a definition and you omit one, then the presumption is you intended to omit it. So I think that for purposes of employee, we should either incorporate by reference the Code of Virginia is 65.2-101, which is, as I said, a very broad definition, because we do not want to be, in my view, I don't think we want to be restrictive in home occupations. And I'm coming at this from 2 fronts. Number one, on just my personal conceit on allowing people the freedom to do as they bloody well please and advancing their own entrepreneurial spirit. And number 2, we're going to be dealing with it with the economic development plan and looking at this. As I ended up in the first business under the existing definition in Madison, Steve Jobs could not have created his business, nor Hewitt and Packard, or any number of other startups on the left coast and in the central part of the country that have been phenomenal businesses. But Madison rules would prevent it. I think what's been proposed goes a long way toward fixing it, except for I would really like to see a definition of employee.
Thank you, Jim. Extending that, again, back to something that I've been thinking about after this started coming up. And this may be something that the planning commission might want to think about and maybe perhaps either say a or nay on something like this. But, like Jim was saying, Apple couldn't have started, Microsoft couldn't have started, because we would not define those, strictly speaking, as a home occupation. And I think maybe, in my opinion, that's correct. That would not be a true home occupation. I think we might need to allow for some other category of a home-based business, perhaps with, obviously we don't want to have a 3-acre A1 house with 500 employees coming in and out and working at the house all day. But yet, somewhere in between these conditions, the possibility for entrepreneurs developing some kind of a new business plan, we don't want to shut that out altogether either. Anyway, any other comment or discussion on this? I agree with Jim. I think that for now, the changes proposed to the ordinance, allowing us to amend that just enough to make the definition itself, to clarify the definition and make that a little clearer, is what we need at this point. Going forward, perhaps something else. Any other comment or discussion? No, nobody agrees with me. Okay.
I'll just say, sorry. It seems to me, in reading this, that would cover what I'm most familiar with and see as a large part of home-based business, certainly startups, is going to be in the service industry. And if I just wanted to just clarify with you guys on your thoughts on that, that if, you know, and I know a lot of guys, it's, you know, the owner, it's at his house, he has, you know, 2 to 3 employees that come there, maybe some of them leave their trucks, some of them don't, whatever, they go out to the job site. They're not regularly performing work there, they will, but it seems like that would be covered within this as an acceptable
Acceptable home
use, right? Which I think is, we need to do, otherwise, you know, we just create, if we're gonna create and enforce an ordinance or intend to, having it not automatically exclude a large part of home-based businesses is definitely a positive thing.
Okay, well, yeah, and I guess kind of building on Jim's original statement about Bill Gates and so forth, and Steve Jobs. Suppose we have a situation, and again, I can't say what might happen in the future, this is thinking historically, all right? 2 guys are renting a house, they're living there, they start building the first computers, okay? And pretty soon, they're getting really successful, they get 4 or 5 more guys coming in, and they start selling them out of the house, okay? It's no longer a home occupation at that point. So, and yet, we don't want to say you can't do that anymore. Where do we make where do we allow for a home-based business and control it in some way, so it's not uncontrolled when it gets beyond the simple home occupation stage? Which is potentially what we are seeing in some, you know, landscaping and that type of thing.
So this is, what we're really talking about is by, basically a non-by right use.
Yeah, something that it's.
Something that's gonna take a special use permit to do. Because I was reflecting back to the farm here, I've got employees to do that, but we're by right, so I'm only assuming that we're talking about, all this is only under special use permit applications.
Yeah. And where the actual business has moved beyond what we consider a home occupation, and yet they're still there in the house and they're still operating.
Does it say in here anywhere that this is, home occupation is only limited to SUP applications?
No, we're talking about by right. There's some that are subs, but
But on the other
Well, I
hand,
mean, is it,
they can't have customers coming in, they can't have signage.
well, I mean, so I'm gonna take this back to our farm.
Yeah.
We have customers coming in. I mean, and regardless if we have 1 or 3 employees, does that come back to what we do?
I don't think so.
Because we're, as a
A
A1
farm-
by right.
A farm operation is by right in A1 zoning. That's the difference.
That was my point. That's
what I was
trying to get at. Is that there's a difference between if this is gonna be a by right or a special use permit application only.
So I guess Steve was saying if it's a home occupation and they can come there, park, leave, whatever, go do what they wanna. Now, I'm just gonna throw a scenario out there because it's happening all over the county. Okay, today, these 2 guys are my employees and they show up at my house and it's too wet to go cut grass or trim trees, but I got a whole lot of firewood that I need to split and they're gonna stay at my house all day and split firewood.
yep.
And that's nothing negative against that, but it's going on everywhere. And that's why I throw it out there. I'm not trying to make it more difficult.
And they become employees on site, and by our new definitions, they would be on site now. And so if you've got 3 of them, then you're disobeying the ordinance, basically.
And Pete, if, let's look at something else. Say we've got a maid franchise service, and we're doing house cleaning, domestic work. And people come in, get the magnet slap on the side of their car and get the cleaning supplies and leave. And we have, and so they're not regularly employed on site. But we've still got a bunch of them coming in. I would, if I wanted to be argumentative with a neighbor, I'd say, well, they're not employees. Show me your contract that they're employees. They're treating them as independent contractors, and they're not employees, and so they fall outside of this, and they are not required a special use permit. And that's fine with me, I haven't got a problem, but I would rather take a preemptive approach so that we don't have to determine in a court of law for purposes of Madison County what an employee is. And I think it leaves us wide open for challenge. Hasn't yet, we can wait and do it when it happens, but.
Jim, yeah, you're absolutely right on that. And I mean, as far as Pete, what you were saying about splitting wood, and I'd thought about that too, because every contractor has a rain day, and you clean out the shop, you do maintenance on equipment. But as far as the regularly employed on site, working more than 2 hours per day, I didn't take that as in a day, but basically regularly, whether they were a part-time employee or a full-time employee, I kind of took it as of each day. But I guess my question too, Pete, when you were talking about that made me wonder if somebody owns a landscaping business and has 30 employees that are W-2 employees, they're not trying to skirt the labor laws like most people, like a lot of people, and the guys come in, they've got 12 trailers, 30 guys come in the morning, they all load up, the gas up, they leave. Is that an acceptable by right home business under this revised ordinance? Probably is, and that doesn't really seem like what we're trying to create either.
See, that's my basic point. That's a home business, it's a home-based business, but it's truly not a home occupation the way we thought it was.
Which is what we want to work on later.
Yeah, I'm raising the point that
Let me move on.
we may in fact want to do that.
Yeah, we don't disagree that doesn't need to be fixed down the road.
Just to put in the minutes, when you sent your memo around, I went and looked at pretty much, 20 counties maybe. And again, I hate borrowing other people's work because it seems like it's a ripoff, but Fauquier's done a really good job of defining brochures so we can get past the ordinance language, but then giving it to the layman so everyone kind of clearly understands. Probably give you all teeth, and then probably just so people aren't doing the wrong thing. So I might be something to look at, but they have minor home occupation, and it's a home occupation permit, and then you go to major home occupation. It pretty much slices and dices what all we're kind of talking about. So there's a distinction, and then it even throws ag into one of the counties. Well, there we go. So we're all thieves.
All of ours is stolen from somewhere.
We came from the king. But anyway, just wanted that in the notes that there are a couple of examples out there on verbiage for educational purposes. That's it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and
Tracy,
there's,
this is all
yes,
on route to that.
correct. So there's not, advertising regulations have changed effective July 1. There's not enough time for the August joint meeting, so we will plan for September joint meeting on this if that's, I know the board is on board, assuming you all will be, that's the plan, so.
Yeah, I think at this point, this is a satisfactory place to be on this. Most of our discussion was dealing with the potential of some future looking at this, I think.
It is. There was one thing that I would like to add, though, in the changes, the red line, or the red changes, on or from the premises, in about the center of that definition. 3 words before that, if we could insert them and draw a line through them to show what the original language was, that is, within the home. So it would read, occupation conducted solely within the home, strike through within the home, because that's being removed.
Okay.
And substituted therefore on or from the premises.
Okay,
Is that okay?
any discussion or comment on that suggestion? That gives you,
That just,
little more
it just
leeway,
shows, no, it just shows the reader what's being changed.
Right. oh yeah, just doing the strike through.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other? Okay. All right, then, let's see. Speaking of the next public hearing, Tracy, are the remaining, of the other amendments that have already been in the pipeline, are those are properly advertised and they're ready to go?
They will be at the August 7th.
Okay. So those are ready to go. Okay, under unfinished business, moving on to that.
Is that a natural person?
Yeah, I don't know. This is picking up on case number S-02-24-01, James and Deborah Selvage, the subdivision application. This was tabled earlier and it's being brought back now. James and Deborah Selvage have applied for a by-right subdivision of a 9.7 acre A1 agriculture zoned lot. The subdivision would create 2 new lots and a residue lot. The new lots would be 3 acres and 3.6 acres, and the residue lot would be 3 acres. The subject lot does not contain a postal address, but is identified as located on North Seminole Trail, roughly 400 feet from the intersection with Hebron Valley Road, and is identified on Madison County's tax maps as 40-72. Okay, and Tracy, would you bring us up to date on that?
Sure, so if you'll take a look, you have 3 plats that were included in your packet. The first one says at the top, boundary survey plat was recorded 6/18/24. So I don't have to go into detail because I'm sure we all recall, including the applicant, there was some confusion on the layout being incorrect comparison with GIS and what was on the court records and what the plats were showing. And so we requested that the applicant go and have the boundary survey plat recorded, which she has done. So that is your first attachment. Just a couple of notes here. I'm going to point this out now because I'm coming back to it. But the 9.70 acre tract is the lot that she is proposing to subdivide. And we're going to get to that on the next plats. But the acreages do match up. This plat has been received by Brian in the Commissioner of Revenue's office. Tax map numbers have been assigned and corrected, and so she has fulfilled that request. So thank you for doing that. Appreciate that. And then page 2 is the actual start of the subdivision plat of the 9.70 acre tract. It's 2 sheets included. Her and I had kind of been going back and forth over the last couple of weeks. There were some minor things that were missing on the plat, but she has provided an up-to-date plat, and I'm confident that this plat meets the code requirements, the plat requirements spelled out in our ordinance. Flood zone is shown on there, right away. Minimum lot size is met. Just as a reminder, she already has health approval. She already has VDOT approval that was obtained when we initially talked about this back in May. So tonight, I'm not asking you to take any action on this because we did have to re-advertise this since it had been so long. So it is scheduled for a joint public hearing on the 7th Notices have gone out, and I would just say the applicant is here should you have specific questions for her. Oh, and one minor thing, I'm sorry. The road maintenance agreement has been submitted to Hannon, and there's one little minor change, which I will get with her tomorrow on, and that should be good to go as well, so. Oh, he's already on top of it, see, so. Yeah, so that's all.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Tracy on this?
So are all these tax map numbers, the original tax map numbers?
I mean, the 40-72 and the 474A and so forth.
40-74A.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an original tax map number.
There was none.
And I think Mr. Brian Daniels is assigned it.
Okay, so it is now, it is an official tax map number now, though.
So.
It's not been updated, but they are official now. This is what has been approved by the Commissioner of Revenue, the tax map numbers, yes.
But,
So
it is that is not part of the subdivision request, is it?
Correct. This was the first step that we asked them to do to correct the confusion in the frankly, some of the plats that we had received, what GIS showed. There was confusion in the court records. I think between Mr. Weekly, myself, and the applicant, we probably have a month's worth of time just over in the clerk's office, trying to figure, and Hannon too. Sorry, Hannon. I know you want credit for that too. Yeah, so this was just to correct what is actually technically on record now. This is what it is currently.
Yeah, that's, I'm not trying to be a problem here, but on your, where it shows the quote site on your first page, I guess it is, sheet 1 of 2, the darkened area there shows that as part of the site, and it really isn't, if what I'm reading is correct. It's true that they own that, but that's not part of the site that's being subdivision application. Right, and this makes it look like it is. That's a,
And that may be frankly a carryover from what
Yeah,
was mapped on
I'm
GIS
sure it is, yes.
originally in the surveyor's defense.
but otherwise, everything matches now, which is a good step.
So the question I got, Steve,
Yeah.
this piece 40-74-A.
Yep.
That's a new tax map number. It's not an old tax map number. Okay? So we created a new lot with a new tax map number. So if you gave it a tax map number and it's changed from what it was, it's new.
I think the quibble with what you're saying is this is a recent recognition of an existing old lot.
So if it had a tax map number, why would you want to change it? I'm not trying to be difficult.
Yeah.
No, I hear, I apologize, I don't have this fresh off the top of my head. I remember looking at this a couple of months ago and being satisfied at that point after talking with Brian Daniel and going and looking at it, that I think the answer is that there was a lot of confusion inside what was recorded at the clerk's office. And whatever that was got lost in the shuffle. And so now this is an effort to get it to accurately reflect what it should have been all along. That's my overarching takeaway. Ms. Selvage can correct me if I've gotten it wrong.
Well, in my mind, always in the past, if it had a new tax map number, had the old tax map number, that's all fine and well. But if it had a new tax map number, you created a new lot with a new tax map number, and it would have to be a conforming lot.
I'm only gonna, if I may, I'm only gonna speak to the 2.6 acre lot. That did not have a tax map number. When you go to plat book 3-8, as listed on that, I guess, the first page. So that was something that Mr. Daniel had to actually assign a tax map number. It is kind of odd, but if you go dig through the courthouse records to look at that plat book 3-8, it does reference the acreage. And you can further go back and see where VDOT took some land when they were doing the 29, but it did not have a tax map number for that, just for that parcel I'm speaking of.
And this might be unfair, I'm going back to email conversation I had with Brian Daniel, which was on the fourth parcel, he said it appeared on a tax map in 53, not on one in 65. He didn't know if it was officially abandoned by the, or if it was unofficially combined. But at least it also existed in 44. It was a little bit of a mess, is the short answer.
I understand. The only question that is in my mind, if someone else comes in here and they bought a piece of land and they got a new tax map and it's not 3 acres, how do you say you can't do that?
But this was a legally platted lot that went back to 1940 or 50. I can't remember the exact year. It just never had its own tax map number. It was, on record, it was a legally separate lot. It just, I don't want to say it wasn't being taxed, because it was being taxed and incorporated, but it was a platted lot. It wasn't like someone presented this and it was less than 3 acres and we're letting them get away with something. It legally is a non-conforming lot on record in the courthouse.
Being that it is a non-conforming lot, we have taken area away from that by putting in a right-of-way. Does that make that makes it less of a non-conforming lot? Does that make a difference anywhere? I mean, you've taken a non-conforming lot and reducing the size.
Well, maybe as sort of a practical matter on the ground as you're building, but it's still part of that lot.
Okay. Is there, I guess the entrance to this right-of-way, it doesn't show entrance. I guess the entrance is right there at the beginning of, I don't know why the dot doesn't go all the way to the edge of the property line on that, but I guess that's gonna be the entrance to this is right there.
Where is the entrance to that lot?
That's what I'm asking.
There's a existing farm entrance there, I think.
No, where is that on the plat?
New 55-foot thing.
So it's not on that lot.
On our previous ones, we specify an entrance of where the entrance is.
Oh. Right.
Yeah, down there.
Hold it.
Is that fence, is
Yeah,
that the VDOT right-of-way?
No, if we could go back to the first plat in your records, Tracy. You've got the 3. Yep, right there. So the entryway is an existing farm entrance, agriculture entrance, is right about here.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just saying, where's gonna be the entrance to that other lot?
Oh, to the 40-74A?
Yeah, what's that gonna use for an entrance? Because if you made that lot smaller and that lot is not being used off of that entrance, where is gonna be the entrance for that lot?
Why can't you?
This entrance is serving 4 lots now, right?
Correct.
Will.
It will,
Serving 4.
yeah.
Yeah.
3 specifically and 1 potentially on the side.
I mean, normally when we've done these subdivisions, the entrance has been identified. Particularly the one we just did down off of Etland Road, or more specifically, Leathers.
Right.
We had entrances to each one, and it was identified where the entrance was.
get on record here on the mic. If the question is about identifying the actual entrance of how things would be served, I definitely think the 3 lots, one could say you would just pull off that private right-of-way that would be forming or serving those 3 new back lots. What I think is in question is just overall, how are you entering this site off of 29? Okay. Hannon, if the planning commission is going to make a request of the applicant, is a new plat required, or could there simply be some type of Word document, a narrative by the applicant that states? Yeah, you just take a pen and draw it.
Yeah.
And where I'm going with that, Mr. and Ms. Savage, can you bring that back up, the original, she's got it on the computer. I know where that entrance is, but if you look at this, what's on the board there, one would think, okay, you're gonna get off 29, but then are you kind of using that side and turning up and into the site? Not coming down, because that rock exists a little further up in there.
It is up on the hill a little bit.
So I think they're looking for a little more definitive.
It's real simple, just put some dots, like a marker or something that show where you're entering all 4 lots, off of the 50-foot easement that is proposed. Done. And that would take care of it. Is that what, Hannon?
I'll have Tracy help me out here, but I think for it to be on the plat, I don't think is a requirement for us. I think is it explained in some of the allied papers here that are with this, and that's what is required?
Yes.
So they might be good depending on if we're satisfied with the description that's found in the packet. If it needs to be supplemented, then we can do that easily enough.
If it's in the description, then put some dots on the paper so it satisfies all of us, because apparently we're all visual learners, and then we can go from there. Is that reasonable?
So also, in the road maintenance agreement, does 74A need to be included in the road maintenance agreement? Because it's your,
If it's going to be served,
It is included in this road maintenance agreement.
it's in there, she was saying. It's in
It
there.
is, yeah.
Yeah, because if it's going to be served by that road, I think whether it's non-conforming or not, it needs to be in there.
also is the 12-acre lot, is that going to be served by that as well? It could be, but is it,
The comment is that right now you can do 6 access, but it isn't a part of the question at this point.
No, but what I would say, just to let them know, you got a mountain there of rock. And if you cut this in there, you could get 2 more lots off of this, and then the pieces down the hill further, it's gonna be really hard to get to it, because you're not gonna be able to access it off of 29, because, well, you can if you wanna spend enough money, because of that mountain that's there. So you might wanna think about what you're gonna do in the future to that other piece.
because you can only do 6 right
That don't
now?
have anything to do with this, I'm just putting it out there.
On that entrance, you can have.
Correct.
6, correct.
Yes.
There is another entrance down the hill, closer to the Robinson.
Okay.
There is another entry, a 50-foot right-of-way off of that entrance off of 29.
Which also potentially can serve up to 6. Okay, any other discussion, question?
Well, better than the last time. There you go.
Yeah, I think all,
Progress.
the major questions were answered here. And that 55
55-foot and variable width private right-of-way. We're apparently are deciding we're okay with variable width.
That cemetery
And,
right on the last one.
From the way this is drawn, I'm assuming that that does literally start at the VDOT right-of-way boundary, which I assume is where that fence is.
Yes.
So VDOT owns up to that point, and then your right-of-way starts there. And VDOT has approved that entrance, is that correct?
Yes.
As a right-only entrance. Right out, right in only.
Yes.
So what is that little area there where a W is pointing towards it? The two pins there at 29, where the right-of-way starts and the property line ends. There's a W there, and looks like could be maybe 10 or 20 feet right in there. What is that? It's down there by the fence, with the fence kind of off of 29.
Down by the river.
No, it's back up here. There's a W right here where the 29 is.
Lower right corner there.
The
Oh,
lower
okay.
right corner,
Yeah,
yeah,
and if
of the
it's
property line.
With
There's
an
a
arrow.
W with like about 20 feet or so. There's no narrative for a W. I was just wondering what the W was representing.
Right away width.
No, right here.
Mm-hmm.
The right of way's right here.
Down the bottom left, too.
It's pointing to that
Right
little
here.
small.
No, that's not part of the right of way. That's why I was asking. It's not part of the right of way.
So say west? It's a W for west. It truly is.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Bless
South
you.
55 degrees, west 10 degrees, okay.
Okay.
So it's, the arrow's pointing to the point. But I'm curious about that little tiny, that's not, it makes it look like that's part of that right of way.
It's showing to be 4.83 feet,
Yeah, it's a little tiny space, but
or
if I look. at
10.43. I can't quite figure out how they've got that.
Yeah.
If that's the coordinate, they got 10.43 feet underneath it, but they also have another, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
Well, I'm kind of curious now that you mentioned it. If you look at the right of way, up to that circle, and you come down, you follow that line, it reaches that big rock, and then it curves, heading back on to the north. And then it's got that little tiny leg, it's like a,
That's why I was asking why that line didn't go all the way to the property line, why it stopped there.
and that's not what the W was pointing to, but it is what we were pointing to. It's a utility.
Well, the utility easement is above that.
Right.
But why doesn't that easement line go all the way to the property line?
The fence is the property line, or am I not understanding your question?
The way this is drawn, it's actually showing that leg coming up there as part of that 55-foot and variable width right-of-way. And then the lower edge of it comes out straight. No,
No, that's why I said it was pretty much irrelevant. I just,
Getting hungry,
Yeah.
my animals are getting hungry, I'm ready to roll.
Point taken, okay.
We just, I'm reading your page, you'd like some feedback, but I think I heard the feedback was, is we'll work on a narrative that makes sure that we fix the instance, so when we bring that back for the hearing, or we can certainly advance a clear
Yeah.
Do I have assignments? That's all I need to know. Okay.
Basically, the subdivision of 40-74, everything looks good as far as I can see. I don't think you've got any questions on that? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just because I think we're all here to head things off before it goes to public hearing, I think, right? Is, it's come up several times recently where people have, on the planning commission, have requested or wanted to see home sites, drain field reserves and stuff. And that's not on here. That's not something that I particularly, I think we determined it's not required to show at least the reserve separately, I remember. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up now
Yeah,
instead of later.
Is that something on our checklist that's required?
So I would say that when it says that, the applicant is required to submit supporting data. And this is the plat that will be, submitted with the OSC's packet to the health department. And this shows
That's
the
where,
drain field location and stuff. And we've seen that, the health department has already approved it, so I feel like it doesn't need to be shown on the plat that you all are approving.
Because
it says supporting data.
yeah, I think Mike's point is that typically we do see that. Okay. Don't be.
You called me Mike.
Sorry. The other one. All right, any other?
I was like, I didn't say that.
Sorry. Any other question, discussion on that? Okay. Any public comment? Okay. You wanna check on- There's nobody there. Run. Go home and listen to this speech. Okay, thank you. And thank you. I'm sure you're glad to be to this point.
Are we done? Thank you. That is not mine.
All right, so we have a status update on the comprehensive plan final draft review.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to give a little background or recap, the Planning Commission was provided, I would say, after the packet was published in June, but you all were circulated. The draft that we had at that time from Rappahannock Regional Commission, who helped along with various committee members and stakeholders. So that was transmitted to you all. The discussion at that time was, the document's pretty lengthy. Also to give the Planning Commission time to start, reviewing it, encouraging to review it, to submit any questions or comments that you may have. Also at that time, staff had requested a work group to be formed to be comprised of 2 planning commissioners as well as 2 board of supervisors and staff as determined necessary. That work group was formed. That is made up of Mr. Carpenter, Mr. Whitman to represent the Planning Commission, and then we have Supervisor Yao and Supervisor Buchanan from the board side. We've had 2 meetings with the work group. There have been some edits. What I have before you here tonight, and I'm going to discuss preference here, the Planning Commission here in a moment, is what I have labeled as July 15th, 2024, version 2. What has been done since what was sent to you initially was making some edit corrections and revisions. So for example, all the intentionally left blank pages are gone. That alone has allowed us to condense this down to about a 71-page document. So that has helped on some of that concern of length. Moving through this document, we so far have gotten to page 35. That's where the group left off last time. So we've made some revisions to the acknowledgement page, corrected spelling of names.
Thank you.
And I've already talked about the, we do know there are going to be things, formatting, consistencies. So for example, as you've gone through the document, at the bottom of the document, you've probably seen page numbers appear on the right, page numbers appear on the left. what's going on there. So we will correct those. That hasn't been completely corrected yet, but we do recognize that. Some other things, we do have some homework assignments, such as I've given the whole document over to the Extension Office, but I've asked them, hey, any comments you have specifically on agriculture, we'll take anything else. Miss Mallory or Kelly Mallory, and both her and Brad have said, hey, let us get after the fair, and we will definitely get back with you. And I think all of the sections are important, but definitely that part is important because that makes up the bulk of what Madison County is, right? So we want to make sure that agricultural data, whether it's active farmland, farmland that has either family workers or those who employ people, those are some statistical data that we want to make sure that we have correct in here, or I should say reflected. We've made some revisions as well in the reference of slopes. I think had some floodplain language. We took that out. It doesn't make sense to have floodplain and slope. It does make sense to encourage, and I know you all are studying slopes at this time, so at some point I'd like to get with that subcommittee. I'm not sure who was given that assignment on the Planning Commission, but to make sure any language that committee is working on, I think it makes sense to put that in that portion. Certainly that'll become an ordinance, but I think it adds teeth to that in the comp plan. And the feedback I'm getting so far is, anything greater than 25%, take out really any possibility or recognition of development and just leave that as a slopes greater than 25%. Should be encouraged to maintain, conservation, some type of vegetation, forestry, or something like that, where it's not really, it's kind of frowned upon, if you will. Write it how you will, but it's kind of frowned upon to try to develop on those significant slopes. There's been some questions on historical or cultural resources, things such as should we be mentoring, Centurion Farms and things of that nature. Where the group left it recently was leave that in. I think Tracy had a very good point that sometimes grants can be obtained by having those resources in your comprehensive plan. So at this time, we have left that in. In land uses, I'll go to page 9. In land uses, we did add in timber because that was not something that was recognized, but we also feel that, here we go. Timber is a big, I was going to say corporation, a big activity or I'm struggling for a word here, but it is something active. We focus a lot on agriculture, which is good, but we also have a lot of timbering in this county, or harvesting, or whatever you want to refer to it. So we have added that in as well. If you look at this page, it would be a good time to point out, you see me hovering around this subparagraph D. One of the things Supervisor Yao called, and I have to make the adjustments, the rest of the documents, we have done it up through, I believe, page 15, is some of the maps or tables that are referenced this page and that page, they're wrong. So we're correcting the pages that it leads you to, so it's accurate. Some of the other things we've noticed, and I'm going to check with Ms. Little from Triple RC, who has, cited where they pulled the data. You can read through the narrative to see that, but sometimes we're finding out things are not equaling 100%. They're either less than that or they're well past 100, and we know that 100% is 100%. So we just want to make sure that those percentages are correct. Let me flip through here real quick. I think population growth was one of those we were going to be looking at as well. Let's see. Yeah, out commuting, in commuting. Miss Gardner, oh, she's left for the evening. Okay, she's going to go back. Some of the economic data kind of stopped at 2021, so we do have data, I believe, at least for 2022. So we're going to update and put the data that we have that's available. We did the same thing for the initially the transportation, the secondary six-year plan was from last year's. Well, we can do better than that because the board just approved one in, I think, May. So we'll be updating that tourist and spending numbers. Other than that, the work group has another meeting scheduled for July 30th. So what I wanted to ask the planning commission really on preference of how you wish to receive data and when you want to really start making your comments, I'd be happy to hear those tonight. But is the preference let the work group wrap up all their edits and then transmit that final version to you all? I believe we're no more than 2 meetings away, and correct me, we have members of that work group here tonight, but I believe we're that close. We're halfway through. I said there's 71 pages in here. Well, if you take out the cover page and the in the document page, we are technically halfway through. I believe we can finish that and have that to you. It is July 18th, so I believe you would safely have that some period in August as a final version that the work group's going through. Now, I do not want to upset the planning commission. If the desire is, hey, you can do that, we're not trying to circumvent this work group, circumvent this body. We're trying to, I guess, fix some of the, making sure what's transmitted to you, table sets, formatting, where you're not having to go through that. And you may have already done that. But that's kind of where we're at right now. We're halfway through. So does the planning commission desire, hey, work group, get through all your edits, then transmit that, then we're going to give you comments, or we can certainly start with that here tonight, and take those comments ongoing through that process and incorporate that in the work group's review. Yes, sir. Were you able to successfully? All right, I had to make my changes, so thank you for that, sir. Okay, I definitely will take, and that's perfect, exactly what we need. It's not too late, so if we've made edits, we can always go back to the first version, the second version, to see where they're at, because there may be similar comments. I tried Word and my formatting, or it may have been, I'm not the IT guy, it may be the way I was doing it, but I found that I've had to go back and make changes in the actual PDF, so it didn't screw with the formatting. The only unfortunate part of that is I like Word because I can give you a red line and everybody can see track changes. So that's where I prefer Word. Okay. Okay. It's been, I don't know.
Some of the stuff translated through my software is a picture.
Yeah, and then alignment, because how the picture may be dragged or dropped and formatted on a page. Yeah. Yeah. So I'd be happy to take comments here tonight, meet individually with the, okay.
Along those lines, what I would suggest, and I have emailed everybody asking for this, if you have, like Jim's work here, well, you can just give that to Jonathan, but if you have comments, questions, suggestions, anything, Zach and I are going to be at these meetings. We missed the last one, but that wasn't deliberate. And we'll carry that information to the meeting. So if you have suggestions or comments or anything that you want to see changed, pass that along to me, or just pass it along to me. I won't ask exactly that. But so that I can bring it to the next meeting. Wonderful. Anything else to add there?
I mean, I can only speak for myself. I'm kind of good either way as far as the edits and how do we want to do it. To me, just out of everybody's use of time, or again, just speaking for myself, if you guys are working on this, everybody doesn't need to be editing grammar.
Right.
You guys, as long as there's going to be time, and I assume there's going to be like a public period, review
Right.
period as well. So as long as there's time after the work group is going through it, I say, you guys, thank you, do your thing, give it to us, and then there's a lot less comments for everybody to sift through. That's my feeling on it.
take that as the painless approach. I approve of that. Thank you, thank you.
Sounds good.
And Mr. Smith, I'll be happy to meet and go through. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, well,
Perfect.
yeah, that's probably simple.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you, sir.
You can just send it directly to Jonathan, that's far simpler.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any questions for Jonathan? All right, and time-wise, it looks like we were starting out pretty much behind the time, so
Yeah, we're behind. I don't know if any, comp plan timeline police will come get us, but technically it talks about a 5-year review. Now, one can say, do you need to be complete within 5 years, or at least working on it? The last one was completed and updated in 2019. So if you did the 5-year period, technically you would want to do it by now or finish it by year 2024. So I think we have time if we can effectively get this over to the Planning Commission, say sometime in August. That gives you a couple of work sessions to work on it. It gives board time to comment on it and then get it to a public hearing. You may want to have only one, you may want to have 2 public hearings, whichever you desire. But it definitely will go through the public hearing process to give that input, and then ultimately has to be adopted by the Board of Supervisors.
Tracy, do we have any other new business, old business, correspondence, et cetera? Okay. Yeah, which are already scheduled and ready to go. Okay. All right, that being the case, move to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
This conference is no longer being recorded.